Welcome back, brothers and sisters. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button to join our growing community of faith. Today, we're diving deep into a single calendar date that holds an unbelievable amount of spiritual weight in the Catholic Church, July 16. Across different centuries, this exact day became the stage for three of the most profound, dramatic, and beautiful moments in Christian history. Today, we're exploring the miraculous gift of the brown scapular to St. Simon Stock, the breathtakingly beautiful final apparition of Our Lady of Lourdes to St. Bernadette, and the tragic, high-stakes confrontation inside the Hagia Sophia that sparked the Great Schism of 1054. Let's jump right in. The Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel is celebrated universally across the Catholic Church on July 16th, commemorating a pivotal moment in Marian apparition history and Carmelite spirituality. The origins of this event stretch back to Mount Carmel in the Holy Land, a site of immense biblical significance. In the Old Testament, the prophet Elijah famously stood on Mount Carmel to defeat the pagan prophets of Baal, re-establishing Israel's fidelity to the one true God. Centuries later, in the 12th century, a group of Christian hermits sought solitude and contemplation in the caves of this holy mountain, living under the patronage of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and eventually forming the Order of Carmelites. However, during the 13th century, Muslim conquests forced the Carmelites to flee their spiritual home on Mount Carmel and seek refuge in Western Europe, particularly in England. Settling in a foreign land was incredibly difficult. The fledgling order faced extreme trials, political persecution, and skepticism from ecclesiastical authorities. Amidst this existential crisis, St. Simon Stock, an English Carmelite friar and the prior general of the order, turned to the Mother of God in passionate, desperate prayer, begging for a sign of her maternal protection to save his community. According to pious tradition, on July 16, 1251, the Blessed Virgin Mary answered his prayer, appearing to St. Simon Stock in Aylesford, England. She held in her hand the brown woolen scapular, a basic over-the-shoulder work garment worn by the friars, and presented it to him as a visible sign of her covenant with the Order of Carmel. Mary spoke comforting words, promising that whosoever dies clothed in this scapular shall not suffer the fires of hell. Rather than a magical guarantee of salvation or a superstitious amulet, the brown scapular was given as a sacramental, a physical pledge of Mary's spiritual protection, a call to live a life of prayer and interior conversion, and a sign of consecration to her Immaculate Heart. Over the centuries, this devotion spread from Carmelite monasteries to the lay faithful worldwide, endorsed by numerous popes. It remains one of the most beloved and universally worn sacramentals in the Catholic Church, inviting believers to clothe themselves in the virtues of Mary, seek her maternal intercession, and walk faithfully toward her Son, Jesus Christ, with the hope of eternal peace. On July 16, 1858, the small town of Lourdes, nestled in the French Pyrenees, witnessed the quiet, heartbreakingly beautiful conclusion to one of the most famous Marian apparitions in human history. For months, a poor 14-year-old peasant girl named Bernadette Soubirous had been receiving miraculous visions of a beautiful lady in white at the damp, muddy grotto of Massabielle. The apparitions had transformed the town, sparking intense skepticism from civil authorities, deep devotion from local believers, and triggering the discovery of a miraculous spring of healing water that would go on to heal thousands of pilgrims. By July of 1858, local authorities had grown increasingly hostile to the crowds flocking to the grotto. In an attempt to suppress the growing movement, the police boarded up the grotto of Massabielle, erecting barricades and declaring it illegal for anyone to approach the site. Bernadette, deeply desiring to see her beloved Aquero, the local dialect word for that one, which she used before the lady revealed herself as the Immaculate Conception, was physically blocked from entering the sacred space. However, July 16 was the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and Bernadette felt an irresistible, quiet prompting in her soul to visit the grotto once more. Unable to cross the barricades, she was accompanied by her aunt and a few friends to the far side of the River Gave. Standing in a meadow across the rushing waters, gazing from afar at the boarded-up cave, Bernadette knelt in prayer. Suddenly, the heavens opened for Bernadette. The Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to her one final glorious time. Although separated by the river and the wooden fences of secular authority, Bernadette was instantly transported into a state of ecstatic prayer. Our Lady did not speak a word during this 18th apparition. Instead, she looked at Bernadette with a radiant, unforgettable smile of maternal love and farewell. Bernadette would later recount that she felt no distance at all, and that she had never seen the Blessed Mother look so incredibly beautiful. This quiet farewell marked the completion of the Lord's messages, showing that no earthly barrier, river, or lock can prevent the soul from encountering divine grace. For Bernadette, this final silent blessing was a powerful reminder of Mary's promise. I do not promise to make you happy in this world, but in the next.
July 16, 1054 is remembered as one of the most tragic and consequential dates in the history of global Christianity, marking the formal threshold of the Great Schism, which fractured the Church into Roman Catholicism in the West and Eastern Orthodoxy in the East. While the split was the culmination of centuries of cultural, linguistic, and political alienation between the Latin-speaking Western Roman Empire and the Greek-speaking Byzantine Empire, the literal breaking point occurred on a hot summer morning in Constantinople. Tensions had reached a boiling point over several major theological and practical disputes. These included the Western insertion of the filioque and the Son clause into the Nicene Creed, the use of unleavened bread for the Eucharist in the West versus leavened bread in the East, and the centralized authority of the Pope in Rome versus the collegial, conciliar view of the Eastern Patriarchs. Seeking to address these issues and forge a political alliance against Norman invaders, Pope Leo IX had sent a delegation to Constantinople, led by the hot-tempered Cardinal Humbert of Silva Condita. Unfortunately, diplomacy failed spectacularly. The headstrong Patriarch of Constantinople, Michael Cerularius, refused to meet with the papal legates, deeply offended by their letters and perceived arrogance. Frustrated and exhausted after months of waiting, Cardinal Humbert decided to take a drastic, dramatic step. On Saturday, July 16, 1054, as the clergy and faithful gathered inside the magnificent Hagia Sophia Cathedral to begin the solemn celebration of the Divine Liturgy, Humbert and the papal legates marched up to the sanctuary. In front of the shocked congregation, Humbert placed a papal bull of excommunication directly onto the high altar. The bull charged Cerularius with heresy and effectively cut him and his supporters off from the church. The legates then turned, walked out of the cathedral, shook the dust from their sandals, and proclaimed, "May God see and judge." A few days later, Patriarch Cerularius responded by excommunicating the papal legates. Though these mutual excommunications were technically leveled against individuals rather than the entire body of believers, they shattered communion between the two halves of Christendom. The tragic wound would solidify over the centuries, especially after the sack of Constantinople during the Fourth Crusade. Despite the mutual excommunications being formally lifted in 1965 by Pope Paul VI and Patriarch Athenagoras, July 16, 1054 remains a solemn reminder of the fragility of Christian unity. Thank you so much for watching. It is truly amazing to see how God operates through history, turning a single day on the calendar into a canvas of His grace, mercy, and even a solemn reminder of our need for Christian unity. If this video helped deepen your faith or taught you something new about Catholic history, please take a second to like this video, leave a comment below telling me which of these 3 events inspired you the most, and share it with someone who would love to learn more about our rich Catholic heritage. Until next time, clothe yourselves in the virtues of Our Lady, keep praying for the unity of the Church, and may God bless you abundantly. See you in the next video.